Becoming a hero or a villain isn't fate. It's about who you meet when you're at your lowest, and Tougen Anki proves it. Tougen Anki starts off with tragedy. Of course, how else would the main character be motivated? Come on now. He has an adoptive father who loves and supports him. Now, Shiki himself is an Oni with no control over his blood powers. He often goes berserk and has to learn how to rein it in. He joins the Oni Academy after being found by one of the teachers there. This critical encounter is more important than you may have realized. Let's look at the scene where Shiki stops himself from going berserk during his exam where he didn't even know what he was being tested on. At first, his teacher thinks it's just a fluke, but we see in real time how fast Shiki is willing to learn how to control his blood. If he didn't want to die right then, he had to pull it together and fast. That's not the trait of someone who wants to be a villain. If he did, he would have just gone berserk and tried to kill the teacher instead. But he listened, he studied, he watched him, and he wanted to follow in his footsteps. The difference comes down to who you meet and at the right time. So tell me, if Shiki had snapped in that moment instead of listening, would you still call him a hero or just a villain waiting for an excuse? It is pretty common to hear people say that was the start of my villain era, or see a video on social media where people are joking the same way, but this is real deal stuff, y'all. I believe some people are victims of their environment, no matter how much others want to argue about it. Who you're around during your childhood when you're most vulnerable and impressionable will have some effect on you, good or bad. People swear you can rise above your environment. Maybe, and I think it's possible to still be a good person even if you have a bad environment influencing you, but let's not deny that the influence is there. And I think most of us are one wrong influence away from becoming a villain and starting our villain arc. Prove me wrong. If you're caught up on the show, hit that like button and let me know that you're up to speed. Now, some people have been saying this show is like a blend of Jujutsu, Kaisen, and Blue Exorcist, and I could actually see both. Instead of curses and domain expansions, we have power and blood. In JJK, after consuming Sukuna's finger, Itadori encounters Gojo. Gojo then lays down the law and the rules of engagement, but ultimately he trains him as a Jujutsu sorcerer. Even with him obviously having an evil being cursing him, Itadori decides to become a hero. Now, as for the Blue Exorcist, both Ren and Shiki have an adoptive father, and before tragedy hits, they both say things they regret. Even though his brother was disgusted by him, Ren still follows in his path to become an exorcist and save people instead of the more obvious route for the son of Satan. Gojo could have just as easily told Itadori, "You're cursed, you're dead," and we'd have a whole different anime for JJK. And if Ren had leaned into his Satan son side, y'all wouldn't have loved him so much. Now, I can honestly say I had a pretty good childhood and upbringing. I was just poor as hell. Y'all can clown me if you want, but if somebody had dangled enough money in my face or my mom's face or my grandma's face, we might have flipped. And don't act like you wouldn't have either. But luckily, my mama didn't play that. We made our living the hard way. We did what we had to do. But there were so many moments thinking back on it where I'm just glad that I had people around me that were good influences. So I didn't end up in my villain era. So what's it really come down to? Are anime heroes chosen, or are they just lucky enough to meet the right person first? Comment your answer. But hold on, here's the kicker. In anime, the main character has some kind of conflict and then their story begins. But it's not always tragic or dramatic. Sometimes it's subtle. But after that conflict, the first encounter they have directly influences whether they go on to become a hero or a villain. Earlier, we looked at the spiritual siblings of this show and how the MCs ended up as heroes. But let's take a different look. Now, that's completely opposite from someone like, let's say, Light Yagami. Remember, not all conflict has to be tragic. Light was just bored, and he wanted to rid the world of criminals. He encountered the Death Note and the accompanying Shinigami, which set him on his path to becoming a villain. Imagine if he had just met a high-profile prosecutor or a secret government agent instead. And what about Eren Yeager? Now, this was a little more convoluted, but he saw his mother be eaten by a titan, and that's what set him on what we thought to be a hero's path, until we learned that he used the past and the founding titan's power to make the smiling titan eat his mother. Really, the first person Eren encountered was himself, stuck on a predetermined path to cause the rumbling. So was Eren a hero who turned villain or a villain who just didn't know it yet? So why is all this important? Because after personal conflict, especially a tragic one, people are vulnerable, they're open, they're at their lowest. At that point, it's not destiny, it's a coin flip. It's luck, it's chance, it's a gamble. Do you really think your favorite anime hero wouldn't flip if they met the wrong person first? Now, if you thought Shiki had it rough, wait until you hear about the crew that literally died over and over and somehow didn't become villains. That video's right here. They always say it's not what you know, it's who you know, and they couldn't have been more right. When one arc ends, another one begins, and sometimes it decides if you're gonna be a hero or a villain. See you next time.